Hello, this is Darryl Davis, and we've got a very special person with us today, the president of Compass Growth, and that's Rory Golod. Did I say that right, Rory?
Yep.
All right, good. I've been practicing for several days. Um, so before we get started, I do want to introduce and give a little I was really impressed, Rory, that so correct me if I'm wrong on any of this stuff. You had a BA from the University of Richmond, where you won the Robbins School of Business Plan competition in 2008, which is impressive because business planning is so important. Then you did global analytics for Bloomberg, strategic operations for that software company, Yext, I think.
Yep.
Yes, Yext.
Yep.
Okay. And but what I'm really impressed about is how you joined Compass before it was actually called Compass. It was Urban Compass 2014. You hold multiple leadership positions. And the reason why I'm impressed with that is because when you have, as a business owner myself, when you have somebody who comes in on the ground floor, where you
Mm.
only had like 20 or 30 people in the company in one office in Manhattan, and you've grown to the level where you are personally. I'm sure that Robert and the rest of the leadership team are blessed to have you because obviously you're a good team player to be around as long as you have. So that's awesome. So thanks for being here.
That's very kind of you. Thank you for having me. I'm a big fan of yours and everything that you do.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's been an amazing journey. I've been in Compass for 10 and a half years. And I joined, as you said, when we only had about 25 people in the whole company. We were Urban Compass. So we weren't even Compass yet. Our branding, our logo, none of that existed yet. And we were in one small office in New York City trying to figure out this business. And fast forward 10 and a half years, we have now over 40,000 agents, over 500 offices. We're the number one brokerage by sales volume in the country. And I've been just really lucky and fortunate. I've done just about every job that has ever existed at Compass at one point or another. And so now my role is I'm president of growth. I oversee communications, and then I also run half of our core business. So we split our business into two halves, the East and the West. My
Hmm.
colleague Netta Navab runs the East, and I run the West. So I still am very close to the day-to-day of our agents.
Awesome. Now, because we have two groups of people on this call, pretty much. Some of these are our coaching members. They're called power agents, and then there's another group that may not even know me. So, just to give a little background for everybody, so I've been in this business for over 35 years. More than half my life is eat and sleep and drink of real estate, either as an agent, broker, manager, or as a now author and coach. So, this conversation is going to be real important because there has been so I predicted that when we had the settlement and what that was going to be with the class action lawsuit, when all
Mhm.
of my colleagues were telling people, don't worry, business as usual, nothing, there's no change happening. I was telling all of our coaching clients, no, I could plan for the worst, hope for the best. And we're going to see a major shakeup. So our power agents were prepared for the shakeup that happened. Well, I want to prepare everybody that the next lawsuit is on the horizon for NAR, and it's going to be an antitrust violation over the CCP. And unfortunately, people that I respect in our industry are using Compass as the distraction and the scapegoat to justify their opinion and their position on where they think we should be with the CCP, and they're driving us over a cliff. Now, before I go any further, Rory, I want to share with everybody. I want to create a listening and a context of who I am in the matter of this because I don't want people to misunderstand why I'm doing this with you. And so I'm going to share a screen. So this is a little different. Sarah, you can spotlight me. And what I'm going to share is just before we get into this serious conversation. And by the way, gang, everybody that's on this call, we're going to hopefully have time for you to ask Rory specific questions as well.
Definitely.
But I want everybody to know where I stand on this. Number one is me and my company, my coaching members, we believe in Realtor, we believe in NAR. And I'm saying that because I'm going to sound anti-NAR. I'm not. Every agent who has a real estate license should be a member of NAR, period. But I don't like what we're doing. MLS is the absolute best solution for homeowners, I believe. I believe there's exceptions, but MLS is great. I'm not anti-MLS. I am very pro. The homeowner is the client, and we have a fiduciary responsibility to them. This legal fiduciary responsibility is the same level as lawyers have with their clients and doctors have with their patients, governed by state license law and not by NAR. The relationship between a seller and a listing agent is sacred. As you can tell, I'm already got my New York attitude on, Rory.
I was going to
We
say,
just started. It's only 7 minutes. Wait till we're into this thing. I may
you,
have to
you
calm
sound like one of
down.
my relatives.
My team is going to tell me, Darryl, don't have a stroke in the middle of the webinar. Relax. NAR does not have the authority to interfere with our industry relationships with our clients. As such, NAR is an association and not a legal governing body. Somehow, this has gotten lost. NAR has to stop telling us how to conduct our business. And my company, we're not like pro or anti-Compass. Compass is one of our clients, just like Howard Hand and I can go through all these other companies. It doesn't matter. We are anti-CCP because the CCP is a violation of antitrust. Here, let me give a point to this. And by the way, shout out to Robert Revkin on this, because what I'm going to show, he gave me this thought, Rory. He showed at the convention there. This is everybody. I want you to see this. This is NAR's a handbook on multiple listing policy. MLS. Do you see that word right there, everybody? It says MLS antitrust compliance policy. So NAR has this thing. Listen, gang, we got to stay compliant with antitrust. Let me read you what it says. Boards and associations of realtors and their multiple listing service shall not enact or enforce any rule that restricts, limits, or interferes with participants in their relationship with each other, in their broker and client relationships. That means sellers, that means buyers, or in the conduct of business. And then it lists, for example, it lists several examples. Number 7 examples: boards, association, realtors, and the MLS shall not prohibit or discourage participants from taking office exclusive listings. Certification may be required from the seller of the listing broker that the listing is being withheld from the MLS at the direction of the seller, because they're the client, they're the boss. How am I doing so far, Rory? Am I hitting the points correct here?
I mean, at this rate, I don't think we're going to have to talk about pretty much anything else. We could do maybe a live coaching call and go through some role playing on how to win more listings. But I think you've hit the nail on the head pretty much. I don't know if there's anything else for me to say.
No, come on. No, we can't. All right. But wait. All right. So, Rory, thank you for that. Now, listen, Rory, I want your opinion on this.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to go over this chart. I created this chart for us last night. I was up till 1 a.m. getting ready. I was so excited that you were doing this with me, and because I'm committed to making a difference with the industry and getting clear on cutting through the noise. So I created a chart. This chart shows the pro-CCP people. This is their talking points. I'd like to get your opinion on each one of these. I have my opinion in that last column that says truth. So, for example, the pro-CCP people. By the way, before I continue, can you unspotlight me, Sarah? Rory, before I do this chart, can you explain to the audience, for maybe we got some new agents or whatever, they don't understand CCP, what it is. So can you explain it?
So CCP stands for the Clear Cooperation Policy. I like to call it the Compass Rule. And the reason for that is because you got to go back to where did it come from. Back in 2018 and 2019, Compass was championing the concept of what's called a coming soon. Coming soons have existed long before Compass. All it was were listings that were on compass.com. So our website, which anybody can access, any person can go to compass.com and they could see these coming soon listings. And what they were listings that were going to be, as they were called, coming soon. They were going to go onto the MLS. They were going, then once they were on the MLS, get fed to all the aggregators and all the portals, but they were first on compass.com for a few days. Now, why would they be on compass.com first? They were on compass.com first because compass.com does not show days on market, does not show price drops or price change histories, and shows the true listing agent. And when agents were going to sellers, they were saying, look, let's make sure we build our exposure in phases. We want the most exposure, but we should do it in phases. No company, no brand, no service takes a product and just throws it out there for the whole world. So we're going to put it on compass.com as a coming soon. We'll put it on there for a few weeks. You don't have to worry. We're not going to start that days on market clock, which is the killer of value as that goes up and up. And maybe I'm telling you as your agent, I think the home's worth $1 million. You think it's worth 1.2. We'll put it on as a coming soon at 1.2. We'll get some feedback. We'll see how it's going. And then it will go to the MLS and it will go to the full market. And we'll make sure we're priced accurately, because pricing is difficult enough, let alone doing it without any feedback. And by the time it's hit the MLS and it's gone out to all the portals, because it's been on compass.com, people have seen it. I've probably gotten some inquiries. Our first open house probably has more traffic because now we're not starting from zero and we can be better positioned. It was incredibly successful. We talk about seller choice. Sellers chose to do that, right? Their agents didn't force them. The seller said, sure, why don't we do this? And it got really popular. And there were thousands of listings that were on compass.com before they went to the MLS and before they went to the portals. Now,
go ahead.
What happened was that NAR and certain MLSs and probably some companies got together and said, we don't like this because this threatens the control we have over the industry. If listings are not forced into the MLS and portal ecosystem, then that threatens the monopoly we have. Now, again, I love the intro part you included, that first slide, because everything you said on there, we fully believe at Compass. We believe in a strong MLS. We believe in there should be a strong trade group that lobbies for the best interests of agents. Everything you said, I fully agree with. But at the same time, you cannot tell sellers and agents that they can't get creative in how they want to market, that they can't have every option available to them. And what happened was NAR, MLSs, and probably some companies got together, had a meeting, voted to come up with the clear cooperation policy, which says any listing that is publicly marketed needs to be in the MLS within 24 hours, which effectively killed that program. Now, what they did was they took all those listings that were on compass.com that were not pocket listings. They were not off-market listings. Anyone could see them just by going to compass.com. And they effectively forced them to all become pocket listings. Because then at that point, the only way you could pre-market, test price, get feedback from other brokers was to then do a private exclusive or an off-market. So that is what CCP is. And I think the biggest confusion, the biggest point of contention and confusion around CCP is I think some agents think that it's a rule to prevent agents from other companies from withholding inventory. But that's not actually what it is. Every company believes in sharing of information. I will say it on record for everyone here. Compass would share all of its off-market and private exclusive listings with any firm, any company that agreed to not alter the listing, monetize the listing, or change it in any way, meaning put someone else's name on it.
All right, let me ask you a question at this point, because this is how I used to do it as an agent. And by the way, before I role play this with you, I want everybody to hear what I'm about to say. And that is this. If you don't like Rory's answer, if you think he's full of bunk, if you, Compass, they just want to line their own pocket of money on ba-da-ba-ba-ba, fine. If that were true, that still does not give NAR or anybody the right to tell that company how to run their friggin' business, because that's an antitrust violation. They can do whatever they want to do. And that's the part people are missing. That's the part people are missing. Our industry's missing. Now,
I very much agree with you there.
Rory, this is how I did it. Okay. So I'm going to ask you a question. Let's make believe I'm back in real estate. You've got an exclusive listing. It's coming soon and it's not on MLS. Hey, Rory, I saw your listing at 1010 Hunter Lane. I know it's not an MLS, but can you do a co-broke with me? Because I got a buyer that I would love to show the house to. I think it'll be a slam dunk. Can we do that? Go.
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Now let's go back to my chart. What I like you to do is I like you to comment on the pro CCP's talking points. And Sarah, if you'll spotlight me again, please. And so that way people can read it. I'm sorry about the small print, but there was a lot to say. Promotes cooperation. So pro CCP is saying it ensures all MLS participants have access to available listings. What say to that do you? What do you say to that?
Absolutely. If you're a participant in the MLS and you pay for the MLS, you should have access to all the available listings, right? So, and that's, again, I think a lot of this is trying to get to the fact from the fiction. Compass is not encouraging a strategy for the purpose of withholding listings from the MLS. Compass's only purpose for existing is to help agents give more choices and options to their clients, so those clients have better outcomes and those agents win more business. That's it. That's all it is. So yes, I very much agree with that.
All right, so here's my thought on it because there's, and let me clarify my chart. It's almost like the pro CCP people are saying that you need this rule of CCP, clear cooperation policy, putting on MLS within 24 hours in order to promote cooperation, suggesting without CCP, we don't have cooperation. Well, my truth to that is, we've been cooperating since 1885. The first sharing of MLS or listing information, not MLS, information was in Chicago in a meeting, a bunch of brokers, they stood in a room and they basically shared their listings. So that was the pre-MLS system. And we've been doing that since 1885. So CCP or no CCP, we still would cooperate. So that's...
Well, and to add to that, let's go before CCP. So CCP was 2020. Compass was founded in the early 2010s.
Okay.
So we existed as a company for years through 2010 to 2020 in that decade. CCP was not a thing. And I would reckon that if you asked a number of agents, what would you say was business from, call it 2014 when I started Compass till 2020? Were we in this terrible Armageddon-like scenario where listings were being hidden and clients couldn't get access to things and agents couldn't get access to things, and think of every sort of scenario that everyone's describing would happen? That did not exist from 2014 to 2020. In fact, no one ever talked about this at all. And so, and that's the world where portals existed, technology existed, websites, all of that. So I very much agree with that point.
All right. Now, they say increase transparency. So we need to have CCP. We must have it to increase transparency to provide a more open and fair market. So suggesting without CCP, we don't have increased transparency. What do you say to that?
Exactly what I just said. Prior to CCP, we operated as a business for a very long time with tremendous transparency. And actually, the irony is CCP is what's not transparent. Think about the example I gave before. Before CCP, every one of those listings was on compass.com. Everybody could see it. CCP forced those listings effectively underground, if you will. I'll give you another example. We came out with this concept about 2 months ago for a listing book. All right. A lot of people gave us a lot of heat for it because they're like, you're a technology company. Why are you printing a book of your private exclusives and off-market listings and putting it in all your offices? And the reason is we would love to share those listings with everyone via software, via technology. But because CCP does not allow for that, we are forced to put them in a book and tell agents, if you want to see our off-market listings, which, by the way, we're the only company who's actually doing this. No other brokerage is saying, you can come to my office and I'll give you a book with all of my off-market listings. But we have to do that because of CCP. So what's more transparent? Compass wanting to share every one of its private exclusives and off-market listings with every brokerage, or CCP forcing us to not be able to do that, have to put them into a book and tell people they have to come to our office to see them.
Well, so, and here's what I say to the people that say in CCP, well, you have to have CCP for transparency. I'd say, okay, As a listing agent, we have fiduciary responsibility to the client, not to the market. Plus, transparency is the wrong word. We can still be transparent and have an exclusive listing, which is what you just said, Rory. So I want to say it again to all of my CCP colleagues that are saying you must have it for transparency. No, you don't need CCP. You can still be transparent. Rory just gave an example. Sellers have a choice. This one gets me twisted. So, and
Yeah,
if
this
you
is
haven't
one
noticed,
of
I'm
my
already twisted here. So, sellers have choice. Sellers can choose an open listing. So, talk to that.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite ones. Why should an agent and their client have to give up exclusivity in order to have choice? Why should, in order to have the choice to market the home however I would like, why should I have to give up exclusivity? Why
Right.
should I, as the client, have to say, you know what? I want choice, but that means I can't sign an agreement with the agent that I want to work with. There's no other industry. You used attorneys before. Imagine going to your attorney and they said, hey, there are 3 different ways in which we could approach this case. But if you want to choose one of those 3 ways, you can't actually work exclusively with me. We've got to figure it out and work with a bunch of people. And maybe I'll represent you. Maybe someone else will represent you. It's almost crazy to even have to think about it that way.
Well, what blew my mind is I was watching. This is what I mean by our industry has gotten so dis distracted from the real point here that they're making up weird things. Like to me, that like so. For example, I don't know if I want to say his name. You did another interview with somebody. He's done a tremendous amount to our industry, but this guy was arguing with you, saying, "Well, Rory, open listings is a choice. Do you go on a listing appointment and tell the homeowner that why don't you do an open listing and encourage the open like they were arguing that all agents should push open listing on a listing appointment and explain that as a choice to the homeowner. I want to ask everybody that's watching, I want you to use your chat. Everybody, I'm looking at the chat. I'm going to do a quiz. I want you to write in the chat. When a homeowner says to you, listen, you can show my house, and if you bring a buyer and you sell it, I'm going to pay you a percentage. I'm not signing a listing though. I want to sell it myself. I'm not signing a listing, but bring me a buyer and I'll pay you. Can you tell me the other name for that person? What is that name for that person? What do we call that person in our industry? I'm looking at the Yes, yes, yes. FISBO. It's called a FISBO. So you've got real estate leaders arguing that you should be telling homeowners to be a FISBO.
Yeah, you know what, actually, here's actually a great way to think about it. Anybody, if you're a coach, if you're a real estate analyst, if you're someone who's invested in this industry, would you ever advise any of your clients to do what you just said? And the answer is absolutely not. And the people that are saying, well, great, if you want to have seller choice, you can just do an open listing. My question is, how many of your clients or agents are you encouraging to do that? And the answer is 0, because as you said, that is not an actual answer. That is a made up concept to try to create an argument that makes no sense.
Exactly. This is what I mean by and Rory, the reason why I'm getting so excited, and I apologize if I'm annoying anybody that I'm being too excited. Really, I mean that. But I can't. I don't want to mention names because these are big players, people I respect. I was sitting at an Inman conference talking to somebody. My God, and they were arguing this point with me as to why we need why we don't need to cancel CCP because we have the open listing option for homeowners. And if any broker would encourage their agent, can you imagine everybody? That's the other thing. It's the people are villainizing you guys, say you just want the double dip in the money and it's about the money. It's about serving. All right, let's all just let's not even charge a commission. Let's just serve homeowners and donate our time because we're not in the business to feed our family.
I very much agree with you on this point. And that's why it's not an actual real argument. It's not a real position. It's made up. It's ludicrous. And it's not even worth spending time on because not a single agent, and not a single agent who's even concerned or disagrees with what we're doing, or trusts or believes maybe their brokerage leader who disagrees with what we're doing, not a single one of them would ever agree to do an open listing or encourage their own clients to do a FSBOs. Think of it this way. Would an agent ever put on social media, you should all do FSBOs and open listings? Never. And you mentioned one other thing, and I think it's really important to address this. There are a lot of people who are out there saying, well, Compass is only doing this because they want to double end deals. They want to hold the inventory inside of Compass so their agents can be on both sides of the deal, right? Now, one, the numbers tell you that's not actually what's happening. We put this number out, and again, we're a publicly traded company, so we can't put out stats and numbers that are not real. If we were to do that, we can get in a lot of trouble. People can go to jail. We put out the number and said 94% of the listings that go through the Compass 3-phase marketing strategy, right? So start as a private exclusive, become a coming soon, go to the 3rd phase, which is on the market. So 94% of the listings end up on the market. Of the 6% that don't, the majority of those are co-broked with an agent at another firm. So what does that leave? 6%, the majority would be more than 3. So you're talking under 2% of listings, under 3% of listings that are deals where Compass agents do. Now, this is the most important thing to consider in this. So one, the numbers tell you that's not what's happening. In a world of buyer broker agreements, which we have now, because as you said, the lawsuit last year meant that now every buyer needs an agreement with their agent. A Compass agent who has a buyer, they have an agreement with that buyer. If a Compass agent has a listing, so let's pretend, Darryl, you're a Compass agent, you have a listing. I'm a Compass agent, I have a buyer. Compass, the company, is going to get a piece of that buyer commission, whether we buy a Compass listing or not. So if you have the listing and we're both at Compass and I bring my buyer and we do a deal, yes, Compass gets the buyer commission, the seller commission. And if you sell it with someone else and I bring my buyer to a non-Compass listing, Compass still gets my buyer commission because we have an agreement. So the concept of double ending mathematically doesn't actually make any sense.
Well, I'll say this. Listen, if we're honest, now, everybody pay attention to this. If we're honest, I don't think there is any broker in the United States, if they had a choice of listing and selling, or just listing and getting the listing side, I don't think there's any broker that would tell their agents, don't try and get both sides of the transaction, because that's business to generate both sides of a transaction. Now, if you do it at the risk of hurting the seller, giving bad advice, well, that's a fiduciary violation and legal license problem. So no, this is how I used to do it, Rory. I used to say to a homeowner, and by the way, just to the agents watching who are in states that discourage dual agency, that's a state thing. And in some cases, there's actually licensed law that you can't do dual agency in a handful of states. So that's the exception. But like me as a New Yorker, I would say to a homeowner, Mr. and Mrs. Hunna, what we can do is go right to MLS, but there's another option. We can just do it in-house for 30 days. I would like to do this for you. Here's why. Have you ever had the holidays where, like my wife, when we do the holidays, she used to be a pastry chef, by the way, Rory. So when we have family over,
that's a real asset during the holidays.
I'm telling you. So, but here's what happens. She's in the kitchen. Chef thinking she's get out of it. But people, the family, they want to help. So they come into the kitchen, they help. And of course, she's wonderful. She smiles. Thank you to everybody. And then when everybody goes home, she yells at me for not keeping them out of the kitchen because it's in the way. So this is, I say to a homeowner, instead, when there's another agent involved in the transaction, you got 2 cooks in the kitchen, there's more possibility and opportunity for a communication breakdown. Whereas if I'm only one in the kitchen and the buyer has a problem, I can deal with that problem quicker than if I got to do this telephone chain, talk to the list, talk to the selling agent, the agent talk to the dealer. So now I will say honestly, if we don't go to MLS right away, we're not going to maybe have the activity. We may not get the surge, and it could impact the price. but it'll be a smoother, quieter transaction. It's up to you. So that's how I presented it, Rory, because I believe that's true. I believe it's better for my client to have just me do both sides versus having the whole thing. And so as long as you explain it honestly and they choose, that's the choice that they have. And by the way, there are some homeowners, you know this, Rory, that they would choose to maybe lose a few thousand because they want peace. They don't want a whole bunch of Mama Malouk agents coming through and overwhelming them. And how we know this is true is that's why iBuyer even worked. Some people, they knew they were losing money when they did the iBuyer, but they liked the idea of no stress, quick and easy, right?
Well, let me share a couple things around
Yeah.
that. Compass, we have never once, ever in the history of the company, ever promoted, encouraged, coached, or taught people on how to double end deals
Okay.
or dual agency. We are
Okay.
completely agnostic to it.
Okay.
Certain states, as you said, do not allow it. Certain agents, I know certain agents who don't want to do it. I was spending time last week with one of our top agents in the company, an agent who did $112 million transaction. $112 million transaction, one of the most
Wow.
expensive homes in the
Wow.
United States. And so this is someone who is incredibly successful and said, you know what? He's on a team. Said myself and my co-team leader on our team, we
Okay.
really try not to represent both the buyer and the seller. That's their choice. And some agents choose to. And as you said, some clients are fine with that. The truth of the matter is 80 to 90%, I don't have the exact number, of transactions in our business are co-broked, meaning an agent's repping the buyer and agent's repping the seller. And that cooperation is good. That's good cooperation.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes a buyer comes in directly to an agent, they do a transaction. There has been this sort of push, if you will, that people think that this is all we're doing is trying to do that. But again, there is no benefit to Compass because one, a number of the states you can't even do it in. Number
Mm-hmm.
two, I just explained, we don't make any more money if that happens. So if you assume that our intent is just financial, let's just assume that for a moment, we're not benefiting more so from that financially. And third, ultimately, it's going to be the choice of the agent and the client. I
Mm-hmm.
like to think that the agents at Compass, because we have the most productive, the most successful agents in the industry, are doing things based on the best interests of their clients and are not doing this because they're trying to double end a deal. And I think it's really important to sort of really understand that point.
And by the way, once again, like I said at the beginning of this, is that even if you guys were the nastiest, worst vulture thing like people are trying to make you out to, that's none of anybody's business. There's laws that say you guys run your business the way you want to run it, and if you do anything illegal, you'll create your own class action lawsuit.
Well,
Everybody will sue Compass in the United States.
and that's exactly the point. Now, there's another thing I think that's really important to mention here because I'm hearing a lot of the narratives that are sort of coming up right now are focused on this idea that maximum exposure is what you should be focused on. Listings need to be seen by everyone, right? Compass has never come out and said that's not the case. I do think there actually is a really interesting question, though. We should all ask ourselves, just take one moment, ask ourselves, why is it that the most sophisticated, financially motivated, and successful sellers, home builders, and developers sell hundreds of thousands of homes every year off the MLS? These
Mm.
people are incredibly sophisticated. Many of these companies are multi-billion-dollar companies who are very smart, who are not going to do something if they think it's going to leave money on the table. It's a good question to ask. Why are they selling homes
Mm.
off the MLS? We don't have to get into that now, but just something to think about.
Well, and just from a double standard standpoint, so nobody's attacking the builders for not putting their
Or
houses on
not
MLS.
exactly. So that every home builder is allowed to do exactly what we're saying. I think this is such an interesting thing that's lost in
What
this.
everybody has to understand who's watching this, and we've got to spread the message, is that the Compass attack is a distraction from the truth, which is the MLS, and by the way, I am not anti, for people who came in late, I'm not anti-NAR, anti-realtor. I'm the opposite, pro-realtor, and this is why I'm passionate about that NAR is crossing the line and breaking antitrust laws based on NAR's own antitrust policies, for gosh sakes. Let me finish this chart with you because I want to make sure we get all this here. And then let me just, I got to make myself, Sarah, spotlight me because thank you very much. This next one is benefits consumers, more agents, more showings, higher selling price, and buyers see all houses for sale. So by forcing all agents to put all listings on MLS, it benefits the consumer because it's more agents, more showings. What do you say to that?
This is exactly the point I was going to make before, which is it is called the Compass three-phase marketing strategy for a reason. There are three phases. It's not the one-phase strategy, which is off market. No one ever sees it. This is a marketing strategy. This is not a sell your home off market strategy. I think the biggest confusion point, and as you said, most of the people that are pushing this know this is the case. They're just trying to sow confusion. This is not Compass encouraging anybody to sell your home off market. Selling your home off market fully for the whole transaction is usually reserved for bespoke, unique situations. But we are encouraging homeowners to evaluate and make the choice to decide is, do they want to leverage the principles of multi-phase marketing to build interest and anticipation so that when they do go to the MLS, when they do go to the open market and they get all the exposure, they're priced right, they're positioned right, they didn't just burn a month of useless days on market, they don't have useless price changes that hurt their property, and they don't look the same. One of the things that I think is very, it's almost funny when you think about it, is imagine going into a living room, into a listing presentation, and you're meeting with the seller. And the seller says, talk to me about what your marketing plan and strategy is going to be. And you say, I'm going to take your home. I'm going to do the exact same thing as every single agent in the United States. I'm going to put it on the MLS and I'm going to hold an open house. And then you pause. That seller is going to laugh and say, why am I hiring you?
Right.
Versus an agent who comes in and says, look, I have multiple options and choices. We can do this so many different ways. We can pre-market it as a private exclusive for 5 days. We can test price. Maybe you're not ready to sell yet. We need a photograph. We need, you know what? I want to get some feedback. Maybe there's some stuff we got to figure out. We want to tier the exposure like a movie trailer, build it up so that we do hit the market. More choices for sellers equals more success for them. Sellers are not asking for less choices. No seller is saying, I want one way to sell the home that's the same as everyone else.
Right. Absolutely. Very good. Well, my thought on this is that when acting as a listing agent, your job is to benefit the seller only, not consumers and buyers. That's another point people are missing.
The fiduciary is to the seller if you're
to the seller,
a
period.
agent. Yes.
Period. And stop. So does it hurt buyers, consumers, if a listing is just with one company and other agents don't know about it? Does it get a little less communicated out to all those buyers? Yes, it does. Absolutely. But once again, everybody, NAR does not have the right to tell me how to work with my seller, my client. That's my client. It's not NAR's client. And if my client says, I want to keep it quiet, I don't want my neighbors to know, I don't want open houses, I want to listen, what burns the heck out of this, I don't understand this, that if I'm a realtor and a client wants to hire Darryl because they love me, I've been working with him for years, and Darryl, I don't want nobody else in my house except for you. I want to sign with you. And I have to say to my seller, well, because I'm a realtor, I can't not take your listing exclusively and advertise it in my newspaper or put it on my social media. I got to keep it quiet because they're telling me that's what who the heck, what?
Yeah.
I don't understand how realtors are not pissed off on this topic.
Yeah, it's one of the things that I think is is the hardest to actually stand behind, which is how are you telling sellers who own a home, you're NAR, you're an MLS, you're Zillow, none of those entities the seller is hiring. They did not invite them into their home. They did not interview them. They did not place their faith in them to sell this asset. How come they are then dictating how the seller is going to choose to sell the asset? The decision should be the agent and the seller. That's why
Exactly.
choice.
And to stop. And to stop. Period. Now, all right. Let's. All right.
And one other thing that's I think really important here, and someone mentioned this in the chat, being a NAR member is a choice. Here's the problem. We don't actually have choice in our industry. If you're an agent, think of it this way, you're an agent. How do you operate in a world where you're not part of the MLS? You can't.
You can't.
How do you operate in a world where you decide, you know what, I do want to give my clients choice. They want different ways to sell, different ways to market, but I'm going to rack up thousands of dollars of fines every single day that I try to do this. You can't operate that way. So there is not actually a choice. And that is at the crux of what makes this antitrust, is because there is no choice. You're forced to do something. We are not forcing anyone. Any seller can sell their home. In the world we would love to see, the seller makes the choice, the agent executes on their behalf.
Exactly. All right. And I have something on that about what you just said. All right. It says there's another one that gets me crazy. Well, obviously, this all gets me crazy. Promotes fair housing compliance. So you must have CCP because it helps prevent discriminatory practices that could arise from limited exposure. What do you say to that?
So last summer, when we were really digging into this, we met with two of the biggest home builders in the country. And we've met with a lot of home builders, a lot of developers, massive companies that obviously have been selling millions of homes in this country for a long time. And we said to them, you sell all of this inventory off the MLS. You don't put your listings in, you market them yourself. Aren't you worried about fair housing? I mean, you must be concerned. Wouldn't there be all these lawsuits? Wouldn't people, I mean, you're selling thousands of homes a year. One of them had their general counsel in the meeting, and the general counsel laughed. And he said, that's funny. That's a really good distraction from NAR. I get what they're doing. That's really interesting. That's pretty funny. This is not a fair housing issue. We at Compass also hired one of the top fair housing attorneys. Again, we're a publicly traded company. We are clearly out there in the open. We're a target. The last thing we would want to do is do anything that would be against fair housing. And they reviewed every single thing and said, this is not a fair housing issue, which is why there's no lawsuits about fair housing, because it has nothing to do with fair housing, because every consumer can go to compass.com, see the coming soons, and that every consumer, we actually have it advertised on our site. This is how many private exclusives we have. If you'd like to see them, call a Compass agent or now go into our office, ask to see them. No other brokerage is doing that. I've looked at all the other brokerages' websites. I don't see a box on their website that says, we have 100 private exclusives. If you want to see them, let us know.
Well, here's you see, you're a class act, Rory, because you're so calm, cool, collected, and you speak eloquently. Not me. Here's my thought on it. LOL. So the only way to stop a seller or a listing agent from being a racist is that they have to put it on NAR's MLS. That's my thought on it. That's so stupid. All right, this last one I'm just going to do real quick. Having all sales, days on market, etc., is vital to the public and to other agents. This argument, if we don't put it on MLS, then we may not have data like list price, sales price, when did it close, da da da. So agreed, all listings should be listed on MLS for sales data, but that doesn't mean all agents need to show it. So you can still put it on MLS, but put it on as an exclusive before CCP, saying, listen, right now they're just with us. If you want to co-broke, you can call, et cetera, et cetera. So here's the summary. Here's the noise. Compass is blank. Fill in the blank. Compass is the devil. Compass is selfish. Compass is the wants just the money, all that other stuff. The real issue, home sellers, share your listing with all realtors or we're going to interfere with your fiduciary relationship. That's the real issue. And that's what everybody's got to pay attention. Everybody's got to stop throwing tomatoes at Compass. Because here's the other interesting thing, everybody, is that Howard Hanna Real Estate, one of the biggest companies in the United States, they're also not engaging. Hadi said, hey, we're not participating with the CCP. I don't see nothing. I don't see no tomatoes being thrown at Howard Hanna. Now, granted, you guys are stepping up. You're fighting a good fight, Compass, and that's probably why you put the target on your back. I get it. And that's why I respect you guys. You're taking a stand and you're pushing back. But here's what a monopoly. Here's the antitrust violation. When you have a monopoly, and you have abusive behavior, that's when you're going to start seeing a lawsuit. And there's two companies that are lining themselves up for that. And it's clear to me that this is what's happening. One of the things, Rory, that Robert said, which was really interesting, Zillow. The other thing that's getting me crazy too is I'm seeing all these brokers and some other speakers who are acknowledging or giving applause to Zillow. Zillow cares more for the customer. They're policing our industry better than we are. What the hell? Zillow they want to be the next Expedia for real estate. They're spending so much money. Have you seen all the ads Zillow, Rory, saying Zillow is the friend of realtors or whatever that thing is? They've got to post it everywhere because they're trying to counteract the fact that they're not our friend. But this is what Robert said. It's almost like we forgot that 3.5 years, Zillow bought 20,000 homes as I buy, convincing homeowners to sell off the MLS, right? So there's a few thoughts on that. So anything else you want to add here?
Look, I think you hit the nail on the head that people are like, oh, there's going to be all these lawsuits. There's going to be all these lawsuits. First off, they know there's not going to be any lawsuits. That they know that. The lawsuit, if there is one, is going to be on the companies and the entities that are acting against the fiduciary, to your point, of the agent and ultimately engage in monopolistic and antitrust behavior. And again, there's no other industry that I'm aware of where the people doing the work, in this case, agents in our business, but in any other industry where the people doing the work, serving a client, are told and forced by a trade group and other companies that they're not a party to, that they have to do something a certain way. And what I don't understand is why is it that other companies and people in this industry are so afraid of giving sellers and agents choices? What are they so afraid of? Why are they so worried about that? Why do they want every agent to be the same? Why is it that our industry has to have the same exact marketing plan for everybody? In a world of us as agents and in real estate trying to create more value, shouldn't we be getting more creative? Shouldn't we have more options, more choices? Think of it this way. The people who, and if I'm an agent, I would be looking to the people whose job it is to help agents grow their business, right? Compass only exists to help agents grow their business. Darryl, your job is to help agents grow their business. Tom Ferry, his job is to help people grow their business. Tom Ferry has the 4-phase marketing plan program. He's coaching agents on we have a 3-phase. He has a 4-phase. Do we think that you and Tom and Chirag Shah and Steve Scholl and Melanie Klein and all these real estate coaches, that agents pay them money to help them grow their business and better serve their clients? How is it and why is it that they are helping to coach agents on how to do this, but then broker leaders are saying, well, no, don't do this? I keep coming back to the same question and concept, which is, why would you give a seller less choices? We should be giving sellers more choices. We should not be trying to make everyone the same. And that will ultimately help our industry. That will
absolutely
help agents.
What I'd like to do is I'm going to show really quick, because I want to get it in the can, a recording of these specific violations of antitrust, so that way everybody can see the real problem here. Sarah, spotlight me again real quick, and then because I want us to get to questions as well. The clear cooperation policy, why it's the next industry lawsuit, is it contradicts fair housing goals. Pro-CCP supporters argue that not listing on the MLS could promote steering and discrimination, but the opposite is true. By forcing quiet, private, in-office showings without public promotion, it actually becomes easier for a broker to steer properties to preferred buyers since fewer eyes are on that listing, which is what you said a moment ago, Rory. By NR saying you can have an exclusive, but you can't promote it publicly, just keep it in-house, that's actually more chances of fair housing violations
That's
because
absolutely right.
right? Okay, here's another one. Monopolization, market allocation. By the way, gang, that's an actual antitrust legal term. Now, monopolization and market allocation. By forcing participation, CCP effectively prevents other listing platforms and models from competing, which would be interpreted as an illegal, etc. Acting like a cartel, mafia style. Mandates that all listings must be shared with competing agents, even when it goes against the homeowner's preference. Here's another one. Restricts seller's choice, which we were talking about, restricting trade. CCP removes the freedom of homeowners to decide how, where, and with whom their home is marketed, violating restraint of trade. Could be viewed as agreement among competitors, MLS participants, to force business practices that benefits the organization over the consumer. Let me just clarify that for everybody. By NAR saying we all have to put it on MLS, where we have Remax, Compass, EXP, we're all competing brokers. Any lawyer will say, you guys put the CCP in place to help competing companies to monopolize the commission. Gang, wake the heck up. Okay, here's another one. Boycott. By penalizing agents or brokers who don't comply, effectively blackballing them from the main marketplace is suppressing competition. So by saying that if you don't adhere to us, we're going to fine you. That's the other thing. If one agent makes a mistake in an office, they'll turn off the MLS for the whole entire office because of that.
Fine you and ban you, right?
And ban you.
Ban is saying you are banned for not doing what we say, which is give us all your inventory, give us all your information, give us all your data. Oh, we're not going to pay you for it.
Right. Yeah. There's another one.
Give us all the data, all the information, give us all your listings. And if you don't like it, then you will be banned. And NAR is saying you will be fined or banned or kicked off. It's just that's not in the spirit of competition, which is what propels this entire country, which is competition.
Exactly. And I'm going to, there's one rule that actually would be the death nail to NAR on the CCP and antitrust. I'm almost going to I'm almost there. Now watch this. So Rory, that NAR just passed this other stupid policy that I think all MLSs are rejecting, which is okay to help. You see, NAR knows that they're violating antitrust. So what they decided in their meeting, we're not going to get rid of the CCP because, but what we're going to do is give the homeowner a choice that they can put it in the MLS, but not put it on I think it's the IDX feed, still the VAL, right? Okay. So watch this. This is the inconsistent. So NAR allows homeowners to opt out of the IDX exposure, but not the MLS, creating a contradiction. If they're saying that you have to have exposure, then why did they even come up with this rule saying that you can, like they're talking out both sides of the argument, which will be used against them. Here is the real death nail. Here it is. By forcing participations, it prevents listing platforms. I'm sorry that we had this earlier. I'm sorry. It makes it difficult for alternative business models and market strategists to survive. So watch this. I did some research, Rory. So they're saying that when you're an agent and NAR, that you must put it on MLS within 24 hours of you publicly marketing it because supposedly that's better for the consumer and everybody else, right? Okay. So, well, what if an agent says, fine, I'll adhere to that. I am going to list that house on my state MLS MLS.com. So everybody that doesn't know about this company, this is a nationwide MLS system that's not owned by NAR. So that means I should, as a realtor, to adhere to the CCP, I'm going to list it on mystatemls.com. Yeah? No, because the fact that NAR doesn't own this company, it's still a violation to the CCP. NAR folks, pay attention. We're going to get sued and we're going to lose because we're going to have to wind up settling. And just to remind everybody, the CCP has only been around for 5 years. What the hell did we do since 1985, 86? I think we were fine without it. Now, there's one other thing, Rory, that Mr. Refkin did, which was brilliant. I saw him say at his keynote saying that this is one of the rules that NAR has, that that any association can fine any member up to $15,000 for one violation. And so then I looked at the MLS list of violations. I looked at the ones that were $1,500 or more, and then I did another little research. I decided to look at other associations. You know, the American Bar Association, the American Dental Association, the American Nursing Association. Guess what? Not one of these other associations fine in the thousands of dollars. You know what they do if you break their code of ethics or something like that? They throw you out of the association or you get suspended. There's no fines. But why are they fining? Why are they fining? Well, watch it. I'm going to jump. Because they're using the money like this over here, this $45 million. This is the boardroom at NAR. This is really nice. This is a beautiful office. I'm going to quote Warren
The
Buffett.
nicest office that exists in our entire industry.
I mean, listen, it's impressive. But let's quote Warren Buffett. This is from his shareholder letter in 1980. Many of the business misadventures I've witnessed were preceded by the construction of an imposing new corporate headquarters. Tall marble headquarters often signals short-lived profits. There's too much money that's happening. I want to show you I'm going to skip over. I'm going to show you one other thing here. I'm going to skip over here. This is, by the way, I'm never speaking at the NAR convention, and that's fine. This is our leadership. And I put here, well, who's going to do the right thing for our association? This is how much they get paid to volunteer. Christine, 180 grand a year. Craig, the treasurer, 200 plus. Kevin, 265. Kevin, 400. So over a 4-year total, if you go from vice president to president, that's how much money you're getting paid as a volunteer at NAR. There's something wrong that needs to change.
You touched on so many good things there. I think a couple of things to just kind of highlight. You know, one, you're absolutely right. This is about control and it's about money. If a company was started tomorrow, XYZ company, and they created a website that effectively tried to operate like one national MLS that had great technology, great mobile app, great tools, right? We all know most of the MLSs provide very poor technology. Most of them don't even have mobile apps. The interfaces are still 30 years old. I mean, ask yourself, every day we use Instagram and Uber and Spotify and LinkedIn. Is the experience on our MLS technology anywhere near that? No, not even close. So what about if a company came along and said, you know, we're going to do the same thing as an MLS, but we're going to give you really great technology and better tools? They wouldn't be able to do it because they would be banned. They would be shut down, be able to get any listings. So that prevents competition. When competition is prevented, progress can't happen. So subpar products and experiences continue. And that is why we don't have better tools at our disposal. So you're absolutely right. It's also about money. Right now, NAR and MLSs get every listing for free from every agent. And then they take those listings and they sell the data to all sorts of companies, home appraisal companies, mortgage companies. Why do you think when you buy or sell your home, you all of a sudden get all this marketing and all this mail and all this
right?
The data is sold, right? So the agent never sees any of that money. That's the agent's listing. The agent's the one who went out, won the listing. The agent paid for the photos. The agent worked on the actual listing. They never get paid. I say this all the time. It's just like the NCAA back in the day, where college athletes made the schools all sorts of money. They sold all their jerseys and they never got paid. It's the same exact thing. And Zillow's doing it as well. So it's about control and it's about money. Now, again, when I say that, I am not suggesting that the answer to that is then to withhold every listing from the MLS. And in the same way you started this by saying you believe in a strong MLS, you believe in what NAR should stand for as a trade group, I very much agree. What I would like to see are strong MLSs that give consumers and agents choice, flexibility, and control, and function solely to allow a place to share data and to do transactions. And that is it. And are not there to monetize, are not there to do this just to control. That's exactly what Compass wants. We're not looking for anything else other than that. We're not looking for a new system, a new change. We just want these organizations to give homeowners and agents the choices that they deserve. That's it.
Exactly.
And anyone who disagrees with that, I don't understand how you can disagree with that.
You know, and just for people that are coming late to the party, I mean, I know I've been pretty loud and passionate. My anger stems from one thing and only one thing. See, Rory, what you may not know about me as a real estate coach, the only people I focus on in my coaching is the agent. I like brokers, I like managers, but I don't train them, and I don't play politics. I don't care who I piss off. I don't care about NAR. I don't care about, I believe in NAR. I believe in Realtor. But my coaching is always for agents to make more money and design a life worth smiling about. And my one thing that pisses me off is NAR does not have the right to tell my agents how to do a listing appointment and how to run their business. Period. End of story. And that's the problem here. So whether people agree or disagree with Compass and their approach, I don't give a that's not what this is about. This is not about if you guys are they're making you a distraction. They're making you a distraction. I don't see anybody talking about Howard Hanna. I said that earlier. So that's the problem here. That's the problem. And by the way, just to point this out, and then we're going to go to questions. Is this, when I showed this over here, I want to be clear with everybody about this. This to me is wrong, and you'll see I got at the top of the thing say, who's going to do the right thing for our association? One of these people, Kevin, Craig, Christine, they have the power to make a change to stop taking this kind of money. This is gross. This is not the way to run an association. So there's a lot of waste up top, and I hope one of these folks is going to do the right thing for our industry. Okay.
Yeah, you talk about you've talked about distraction a lot. I think that's a really helpful framing. There's a quote. I'm not going to get it perfect. It's Sun Tzu, and it's the secret lies in confusing it's the secret lies in confusing the enemy so that he cannot fathom our real intent. Right? The secret lies in confusing the enemy so he cannot.
I like that. That's good.
Our real intent. Sun Tzu, right? The Art of War. That's all this is. This is, as you said, a distraction to sow confusion so that we are not, as an industry, focused on the real thing. I don't know why people are doing that. I have theories and opinions, but I'll reserve those. But I think at the end of the day, you hit the nail on the head. NAR, MLSs, Zillow have no right to tell an agent and their client how they can work together and how they can sell what is the most valuable asset of most people's lives.
And you know, Rory, one of the people I told you that I respect, they said to me, well, Darryl, how often would a homeowner say, I don't want to go on MLS. I just want you to show the house and promote it and sell it. How many of those how many we're talking about? And I said, probably very few. I don't know, 5, 10%, maybe not even that, a few. And they said, well, then why are you arguing it? Because it's an antitrust violation that this association is an association, that not a legal body telling agents based on license law, this is how you're supposed to run your business. Stay out of it.
Well, actually, I'll flip that. The very few, let's call that the 6% of the 94% listings that go on the MLS. This is actually fighting for the 94%. This is not fighting for the 6%. The 6% of listings that stay off market, those are Compass listings. And I believe there's a public stat available where Anywhere said, and I again, don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure there's a public stat that they put out that said they do about 6% of their transactions are done off market. So very few transactions are actually done off market. This is about the 94%. If there's one thing that I would hope that people could get from this conversation, right? It's that the Compass three-phase marketing strategy, the strategy that Compass is encouraging homeowners to evaluate and make the choice on how they want to sell their home, is a marketing strategy. It is not a sell your home off market strategy. It is 3 phases. The third phase is going onto the MLS and going to the broad market. If this were a strategy of sell your home off market, it'd be called the 1-phase strategy, and we would call it the Compass off market strategy. That's not what this is. All this is Compass agents going to sellers and saying, we have many different options and choices. We can have it off market for a few weeks, for a few days. We can test price. We can get positioning right. Getting price right is so important. I saw a stat from MRED, the MLS in Chicago, and it was looking at different brokerages, and it was their price to sale comparison. Compass was at 100.4%. So what that means is that when our agents price a home, they get 100.4% to their price. So they get a little more than what they priced it for, which is great. Properties, which Compass also owns, was at 100.4%, about 2. Every other company was under 100%. What does that mean? Those agents aren't pricing the homes as well because on average, they're getting less for the home. The strategy is about pricing. The strategy is about marketing. The strategy is about building interest and anticipation so that when the listing goes to the MLS and goes to the broad market, you're set up for success. That's what it's about. And these organizations should not be telling agents and clients they can't do that. We're actually working on more steps. There are 3 phases. I think we're going to come up with a couple more. There should be 5, 6, 7. There should be as many as agents and their clients want.
And once again, when I've heard you guys say this, and then I've heard the other side say, yeah, well, that's not true. That's just what they're saying. And once again, I say to that, who cares? Compass has the right to run their business the way they friggin' want to run it. And there shouldn't be a rule that tries to tell them how to run their business because that's going to be another class action major government lawsuit, for God's sakes. Do you have time, Rory? Do you have time for these? We got like 19 questions.
Absolutely. Let's jump through them.
All right. So how we do this, so that way you and I don't have to read and be distracted. Julie's going to read it for us, and then we'll just answer it so that way we can be present. So Jules, can you do that?
I most certainly can. Hello, gentlemen. Great job. Deborah says, could Compass show their own listings during the coming soon period? I think you covered that, came in early, but.
Okay, so then we're good on that one. Go to the next.
Maya, how long were those coming soon homes on Compass website?
Yeah, it varied. Some homeowners put a coming soon up for a day. Some did it for 3 months. And it's the same thing with private exclusives. Some people do the 3-phase strategy. I've seen people do a day as a private exclusive, a day as a coming soon. And I've seen people do longer. It's totally up to them. So it completely varies.
Thank you. Jolie says, how does this affect FSBOs?
I think Darryl hit the nail on the head.
A little passionately, maybe.
By the way, one of the best points I've heard in a long time. You're right. Open listings are FSBOs. It's like
yeah. I mean, you can't. What is that? Wait. I just got to say something that got me where I really. This is what happened. I got to tell you the story really quick, Rory. So I'm going to speak poorly of this person, so I won't mention their name, but it was an attorney for one of the big associations out west. And they read my Inman article and they called me to tell me why I was wrong and about the CCP thing. And part of what he said was, well, you can do an open listing, which would be fine. And so I didn't connect open listing to FSBO when he said that in the conversation. So here's how I answered it, though. I said, so in other words, counselor, what you're saying to me is that I would go, you're encouraging agents to go tell a homeowner, I'm going to advertise your house, promote your house with no commitment from the homeowner. And then before it sells, the homeowner says, you know what? I'm going to list with somebody else and pay them the fee. You'd be okay. Let me ask you, counselor, let's say I hired you to represent me in court and I'm going to pay you a contingency. You know, you guys call it a contingency. It's a commission, but you dress it up by calling it contingency. So let's say I'm going to pay you 40% commission. And after you've done all the trial work and everything else, just before we're going to win the case, I decide to give it to another law firm and they get the 40%. Would you take that case on? Because that's what you just said to me.
Yeah.
And then you know what he said to me? He said, well, in that example, in the legal profession, we do have a way to protect me from getting paid. Oh, so for you, it's okay. You're still going to get paid, right? So why are you arguing that agents should bust their butt and spend money and not get paid at the end? What the hell's wrong with you? All right, go to the next question, Julie.
Darryl, you would have been a heck of a litigator in another life.
Oh my God.
Right?
My power agents, they tell me my mother wanted me to be an attorney or a doctor. So what I did was I have doctor handwriting. It's horrible.
Oh,
So that's as close as I got to that.
there you go.
All right, Julie, next question.
Well, what I do love is that you both have brought metaphors and analogies into this conversation today. So I think you guys are a little simpatico in that. Is it the New York thing? I don't know. We'll see. Maya says, how can I explain to a seller that not publicly putting their house visible to everyone for a short period of time is good for their listing and is a marketing strategy?
Great question. What you're doing in that period of time is actually preparing for when it is public, right? When you only get one chance at launching the home, you only get one chance. Once it hits the MLS and that days on market clock starts and everyone sees it, right? We've all been there where listings after a while, what do you say to a client? Ooh, there's something, that listing's stale. It's been on the market for a while. It's not priced well. You get one shot, right? I keep coming back to the Hollywood premiere, right? You get one chance to premiere the movie. You know, in Hollywood, they don't make a movie, spend 2 years and $100 million and just throw it out there and hope people like it, right? They test it, they edit it, they do screenings. And so what you're telling your seller is, look, my job as your agent is to help sell your home as fast as possible for the most amount of money with the least amount of hassle. That's the job of a listing agent. It's that's all I'm doing. In order to help do that, we need to make sure we're positioned the right way. We need to make sure we have the most interest and anticipation around the property. We need to make sure we're priced well, and we need to make sure our marketing strategy is solid. And so in order to do that, what I recommend is a multi-phase strategy to do that, that allows us to test price, get broker feedback, make sure we're marketing properly, make sure we're positioned well. Oh, by the way, when I leave your home today, you're not ready, most likely, for me to put this on the market today. Most agents and clients need a couple days, get the listing agreement signed, get the home cleaned up, get it photographed. But guess what? We don't have to lose a week or two while that happens. You want to move fast? I can actually help you move faster. We're going to put it on as a private exclusive for that week so I can start the process now so that when we do go on the open market and everyone sees it, we have more people at the open house, more interest, and I just saved you a week or two versus me saying, hey, sorry, we're not going to hit the market.
Well, you know, here's another example where it's costing agents business and money, the CCP, just with what you said. Let's say you have a homeowner who's ready to, you're sat at the table, you're ready to, you did your whole conversation and they want to hire you, but they want to do some improvements first on the house and blah, blah, blah. And so with the CCP, we get kind of held back of getting that listing right now because we're worried about that 24 hours. If that CCP didn't exist, I can simply say to a homeowner, that's not a problem. Let's do this. Sign the listing. Let me start prepping the house. Well, now that you hired me, I can start spending my time and energy. I can help you. I can call some people to give you advice on what to improve, not to improve, save you some money. I'll call some of my buyers that I think can overlook the fact that the front door is not painted yet so we can start testing. I mean, it's all for the friggin' benefit of the homeowner that the agent should be able to get hired that night so they can start doing the prep work to take care of their friggin' client.
Exactly.
So, my gosh. All right, next question, Julie.
Let's see. Oops,
Oh,
sorry.
by the way, on that movie premiere, just food for thought for everybody. For anybody that's a Trekkie, in the Star Trek series of movies, there was a movie where Captain Kirk dies, and it sets up for the next generation of movies. And they did a premiere. They did a movie premiere, and they got the critique cards back. And everybody hated the ending because Captain Kirk died so miserably, like not honorably. They actually had to go back to location and reshoot the entire death scene from that testing the market.
I mean,
So
it's
there you
like,
go.
yeah. And how much did that cost?
Exactly, right? All right, go ahead, Jules. Next question.
We're a little nerdy around here, Rory, just so
No,
you know.
I love it. I'm more of a Star Wars guy. You know, there's
That's all right. Nobody's perfect.
yeah.
Wanda says the only occasion I can think of that CCP is good is in the case of bank-owned properties foreclosures. Listing agents would put up a sign, but no listing was on MLS, and they would not even give to other agents as a price.
Okay, that's just a comment. Okay, all
Sure.
right.
And maybe in unique circumstances for that situation, great. Yeah.
Okay.
Jan, why does Compass give the seller money to list with them?
That's not, we don't give sellers money to list with us. So I think that
They,
might,
you know what they're confusing that with? Jan, you're confusing. There's a company out there. It's called something agents. What is it called?
oh, I actually, I think I know what Jan is referring to. So we do have a program called Compass Concierge.
Okay.
What Compass Concierge is we front load the cost of home improvement services for sellers. So let's say agent goes into the listing, homeowner has a home. The agent says, look, in order to best sell this, we need to paint the kitchen. We need to declutter, deep clean, and maybe even do a little landscaping. It's going to cost $25,000. I know for you as the homeowner, cutting a check for 25 grand to do that might be a little tough. Why don't we do this? Compass will front the 25,000 at a minimal cost. It'll cost you a couple $100s, right?
Mm.
And then you sign a listing agreement with me. And when the home sells, you pay me back the $25,000 I lent you out of the sale proceeds. So we
Nice.
front load that cost. We've done that for tens of thousands of homes. That's
Wow.
a program that we've run since 2018. It's been incredibly successful, incredible tool to win listings. But it's not, we don't give it to them and they get to keep it. If the home sell, we have to get paid back.
It's a loan. It's a loan.
It's a loan. It's an incredibly low interest loan to show the homeowner that we're invested alongside their success.
Okay, good. Next
I think
question.
that definitely shows the value of getting all of the information as opposed to a part of the information. Paul says, did Compass create or assist in the creation of AREA, the American Real Estate Association, financially provide an incentive influence, or has quietly partnered with them in a conditional agreement with them in any way?
We have not financially supported AREA. We are not a participant in AREA. One of our agents, Jason Haber, is a co-founder or a sort of leader of it alongside Mauricio Umansky and others. We believe in what they're doing, very much so. And I fully support them. And I think what they're doing is exactly right in that they're trying to advocate for the same things that we're talking about here today. But we're not financially part of that or have any financial arrangement or partnership with them. They're completely independent to Compass or any brokerage.
And just to also be clear once again, I saw somebody else saying we should sue NAR. We should all take our money away from NAR and drop out of NAR. I am not, that's a horrible idea. I believe every licensed agent in the United States should become a realtor and of course a power agent, which is my coaching students. Ha ha ha. But seriously, I believe every agent should be a realtor. And NAR has so many benefits and value. It's absolutely, so throwing the baby out with the bathwater is a bad idea. What has to happen is all of the agents that give a damn about our association, and if you're on the same page with me with what you need to get involved, you need to get on committees, you need to become a president, you need to make changes. We are NAR. We are NAR, and we need to take it back. Next question.
Thank you. Deborah, why would a seller limit themselves to sell just within a broker's office versus putting on the MLS 100 realtors versus thousands? I believe this is in the interest of the listing company, but sellers should have a choice due to circumstances but need to be explained properly.
Deborah, the ending of what you said, Deborah, is exactly correct, right? Sellers should have the choice. And again, as I said earlier, this strategy is not advocating to take a home and only sell it within an office, right? This is a strategy to tier it out and then have it eventually hit the market. But you're absolutely right. I agree.
Awesome.
Yeah,
I do
and
see a
yes.
lot of questions, I'm sorry, coming into the chat. If you want us to take your question, please put them in the Q&A. We aren't scanning the chat. Sorry.
So just to finish up on that, the reasons why a homeowner would choose to have less activity, because everybody like that was she was right. If you don't put it on MLS, you're going to get less activity. There's no doubt about it. You have fewer agents that know about it. There's going to be fewer activity. And if you have fewer activity, you're going to probably get less offers. And if you have less offers, it could be a little lower price. Absolutely, could be, right? Not necessarily. In a hot seller's market, it could still sell way above asking price. But that's not the point here. The point is that NAR should not be telling you how to interfere with your fiduciary relation with your client. Now, the client may decide, Hollywood star, they don't want people to know. It could be they don't want their neighbors to know. It could be they just don't want a whole bunch of real estate salespeople coming in and day out in their house.
Yep.
There's some agents that, like Rory, you know it. Like there's when I was listening and selling, there were some clients that they trusted me so much they did not want to deal with anybody else. Darryl, you are here. Period. Nobody else.
I was on a listing presentation last weekend for a really special home, actually in Long Island, and same exact thing.
There you go. All right. Next question, Julie.
Paula says, once we advertise, we get calls from buyers. That implies automatic dual agency. So if a seller doesn't want dual agency, we only advertise to buyer's agents, or when buyers call and we're too small to assign an in-house agent to rep them, we tell to get a buyer's agent to negotiate against us.
Yeah. So, Paul, let me just address that really quick, Rory. So, first of all, gang, dual agency is not a dirty word. So let's just stop treating it like it is. Okay. Now, I know in some of your states, you don't practice it. In Florida, somebody said it's against the law. No, it's not against the law in Florida. They just call it a designated agent. You can do it, but I do know in Florida, for example, you're all brainwashed to not do it, to discourage. But it's not a law that says you can't. What?
Transactional agent.
Yeah, transactional agent. So, but anyway, so that's something for your broker to do. You know, if your state says that you can't do both sides, then yes, you're going to have another agent in the office who's representing one party and you're representing the other. That's a very simple thing, and that's not a problem. So that's an office thing. All right, next question, Julie. And by the way, just Jules, make sure that we are getting questions and not comments in here, okay?
Mm-hmm.
All right, go on.
John, what is the Compass 3-phase marketing plan?
Yeah,
well, we've already done that. No.
We've
done that so many times. So that's the person came late. Next question.
All right. How does Compass work? I guess we've covered that as well.
Can you do an office exclusive for 30 days? Sharon wants to know.
Yeah, you have as long as you can. I mean, I don't believe there's any state. There's a couple markets where you're not allowed to do an office exclusive. Seattle being one of them, right?
Okay.
California. So everyone should know this. This is really important. California Association of Realtors and CRMLS are both actively trying to prevent agents from being able to do office exclusives going forward. So just think about that for a moment. The largest state in our country, with probably the most agents, I would assume, is saying we are trying to stop you and your clients from doing office exclusives and private exclusives. Think to yourselves rhetorically this question: how many agents and sellers have raised their hand and said we would like that? The answer is 0.
Yep. Wow. All right, Jules, next question.
Yeah, Eugenia, this question's for Rory. Some Compass agents here in Florida do not answer calls or inquiries as effectively as they should. How can we reach out? That's any agent, right?
If they don't, email me, Rory at Compass, because if there's a call, We got to make sure they're on it. You send me an email, Rory Compass. I'll make sure they get back to you.
I love it. I just thought, okay. Melissa, how many Zillow employees are on the NAR board? Do you have that information?
I'll let Darryl handle that one.
Yeah. So
That's a legal guy.
Yeah. So gang, one of the trainings I did, if you are a power agent, is Zillow is not our friend. And in that webinar, I actually show the names of the people who are Zillow employees who have been named to NAR board positions of influence. To me, that's just screwed up, man. That is totally screwed up. And so, yeah, there are some, and there you go. Next question.
Let's see. Joy says brokerages are independently owned and operated. I'm with Keller Williams. All of our offices. We have been told that our head broker of the group of 6 offices in my area have told us we cannot allow the other offices in this group to see exclusive listings due to the NAR rule. How do you explain this to us?
So I'm happy to bring this up. This is the challenge with CCP, and this is the problem with the Zillow ban, is they do not want you sharing your office exclusives with other agents. They want to shut it all down. And so your question exactly implies, like, how does this make any sense? And that's part of what we're aggressively pushing back on.
Mm-hmm. Which, by the way, just a little food, just to let everybody know that when Zillow published their new listing guidelines, it said that if you got a listing and you didn't put it on in 24 hours on MLS or Zillow, then they would ban you. In other words, if you got the listing and you didn't put it in your MLS, but you listed it on Zillow, that was fine.
That was okay. Exactly.
That was okay. I'm telling you, gang, it ain't about what's better for the consumer. It's about the money. It's about the money, whether it's NAR's money or the MLS's money or Zillow's money. It's about money, which is, I get it. It's good to have, listen, fight for your dollar. Increase your bottom line. That's all good. But you don't break laws to do that, which NAR is doing by telling you how to run your business and interfere with your fiduciary. You all have to understand something. We're not salespeople like car salespeople, furniture salespeople. We are licensed real estate professionals that have fiduciary. That's a legal term. When a client hires you, you have to work for your client. And NAR is interfering with that legal relationship, and that's where the next shoe's going to drop. Mm-hmm. Next question.
Okay. Maggie says, what if I see a Compass listing on Compass? What if I see a Compass listing on the Compass site during the coming soon? Can I bring my non-Compass brokerage offer?
Absolutely.
Yes, Maggie. So here's what Compass is saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, you're not hiding the listings from everybody. You're just choosing in your 3-phase, or the seller's choosing the 3, to not initially put it on MLS, but you're willing to co-broke. So if another agent sees the coming soon and they say, I got to buy it for that, I don't want to wait for MLS, can I show it today? You would say yes.
Absolutely. And look, one thing that's really important to note. So in Chicago, MRED is the MLS in Chicago. MRED has its own private listing network. So what happens is every brokerage in Chicago puts their private exclusives and their off-market listings into the MLS, and they share them with all the brokerages. If that system existed in every market, Compass would love that. We would be so supportive of that. So again, I'm trying to be very clear that we want to share our off-market inventory with everyone. The rules and the bans are stopping us from doing that. So,
okay, go ahead, Jules.
What he said. Marie Jose says, but the seller says, I don't need to test the market. I'm hiring you because you're the professional and you're supposed to know the right price. What do you say to that?
Fantastic. We can put it right on the market. Not everyone has to do this. It's a choice. Maybe you do, maybe you don't.
I love it. Sharon, can you post pics just saying coming soon without violating CCP?
Yeah, well, so actually, that's a good question on CCP because it depends. Everyone's kind of interpreting it a little differently by MLS. Now, Zillow has said you cannot put it on the internet if it's not in Zillow. So you can't post. That means posting a pic means it's on the internet.
Even coming soon.
Even coming soon.
Okay.
Thank you. Allie, all MLSs have different rules, but the fundamental difference is some allow coming soon for 30 days and some do not permit. How does that affect CCP?
Well, and that's sort of what Darryl mentioned, is that NAR sort of passed the buck. They said, you know what, we don't want to get involved. And I think Darryl's right, because I think they know that they're doing something they shouldn't be doing. So we're just going to say, follow your local MLS. Some MLSs have said, we don't think this is a good idea, so we're going to have different rules. And so if they're saying that, doesn't it tell us that there's a problem here? So that's why some MLSs have chosen to do their own thing. And 80% of the MLSs are owned by NAR, but 20% are not. So 20% are doing whatever they want.
Right. Okay. Go on, Jules.
Sauce. Let's see. Evie says, are you advocating for whisper listing kind of practice when you say Hollywood actor? Don't you want to be on the MLS?
Yeah, as I've said many times, no, this is not a whisper listing off-market strategy.
I love all these terms the pro CCP people come up with, like the open listing. No,
Yeah,
it's a FSBO.
Yeah.
You know, they're coming up with all this different words to scare pocket listings to scare people. Yeah.
Yeah, dirty words, right?
Dirty words. Yeah.
Nancy, as a buyer's agent, if we are focusing on listings in the MLS and other listings such as Zillow and don't pull an exclusive listing from Compass, can we as agents be considered steering by not viewing your website and suggesting your listings?
No, because it's your choice on where you search and where your client searches to find listings, right? So there's no rule that says you have to look at every website. There's no rule that says you have to look at every home. It's completely up to you. You decide what you want to look at and what you don't.
Okay, next
I
one.
love it. Thank you. Melissa, how do the big tech companies get away with selling our customers back to the realtors using our data?
Great question. I would love an answer for that question. That's a lot of what we're trying to figure out as well.
Well, you know, part of it is that when, you know, the way that all the agreements are set up, you basically are signing away any rights to your listings when you put it into the MLS or being an NAR member and et cetera. Like, so they can do whatever they want with your listings. They own the images, the copyright, the creativity to it, et cetera, et cetera. What really burns me too on this is, Rory, is that, you know, the listing agent cannot upload a photo that says, hey, I'm the listing agent. Here's my contact information, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of the MLSs don't allow that. But when you flip through, right, the listing photos, what's the last photo always? It's some ad from a home inspector, title company that paying Zillow, whoever they're paying. So the listing agent can't advertise themselves on their listing, but we can make money on that agent's listing by selling an ad space to somebody else. That's wrong too.
It exactly is. Darryl, unfortunately, I have to jump. Getting
sorry.
the ping from my team. I have so enjoyed this. Thank you so much for having me on. I really, really appreciate it. And, you know, thank you for advocating for, you're not advocating for Compass, you're just advocating for choice for agents and to protect the industry from putting itself in a position that could be very compromising. So I really appreciate you having me on. Thank you so much.
Well, Rory, listen, thank you to you. Thanks to Compass for you're taking the black eyes to standing up to something that is going to be a problem in our industry. So I thank you for that. I thank Robert for his leadership on that as well. And listen, more importantly, thank you for being so generous with your time, staying an extra half hour to answer some of the questions. I apologize to everybody we couldn't get to your questions. We have a roster of everybody that attended today. We'll make sure that we get this video to everybody, and I'm going to actually include my slides as well because I want everybody to see the talking points, and we need to get this message out. Compass is not the enemy. The CCP rule is the antitrust violation. Everybody keep your eye on the important thing. Do not be distracted by what other people want you to be looking at. It's not Compass. It's NAR and the policy. Rory, God bless you, brother.
You as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Bye-bye.